If there's one thing almost every Assassin's Creed game nails, it's the soundtrack. For all the game's flaws, that's one thing you can typically count on being good. And ever since Jesper Kyd blessed our ears with Assassin's Creed 2's incredible soundtrack, Ezio's family has effectively become the series' main theme and synonymous with Assassin's Creed. Regardless of if you think Ezio's family has been overused, or if it's purely nostalgia bait on the part of Ubisoft, you hear Ezio's family in any variation, and you immediately know what game series it is. And starting with Assassin's Creed Rogue, Ezio's family has appeared in some shape or form in every mainline release since. It's always interesting to hear what the new Assassin's Creed game's unique take on Ezio's family will be, and how the sound of the track changes to fit the setting that particular game is set in. Just a couple of weeks ago, Ubisoft released the official Ezio's family track for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which inspired me to make a fun little video ranking every version of Ezio's family that has appeared in these games. Obviously, music is very subjective, and as such, this is going to be solely my opinion. I'm also not a musician and don't know much about the intricacies of creating music, I just know what sounds good to my ears. However, I'm not basing these rankings purely on how good it sounds either. I'm also taking into account how it fits within the game's setting and story, what message or emotion it's trying to portray, and where the theme may play within the game. So let me know your favorite variation of Ezio's family in the comments. There are a handful of games in the series that don't have Ezio's family. Like I said, it didn't really become a common thing until Assassin's Creed Rogue. Motifs and little snippets of it do appear in some of the other game soundtracks, like with Revelations, or Unity in particular uses parts of it in its different tracks a lot, even a little bit in the main theme, but unless it has an actual track dedicated to Ezio's family, then I'm not going to include it in the ranking. It'd be too much to rank all these different snippets from every soundtrack. But with that in mind, let's get into ranking every version of Ezio's family in Assassin's Creed. So last for me is probably gonna have to be Syndicate's version. And just because it's last doesn't mean I dislike it by any means. It feels a bit darker and more somber than the others, it's got a slower pace to it, and it of course really fits within how the rest of the soundtrack sounds, with the violin being really prominent. It's good, there's just a lot of good versions here, and to me this one is probably the least interesting. I've personally never been a big fan of Syndicate's soundtrack in general, but I know lots of people are. Like I said, it's all mostly subjective. This one was hard to rank because it's so new and it's so completely different from any kind of version of Ezio's family we're used to. And as a track itself, on its own, I really like it actually. It's a very unique spin on Ezio's family, that's for sure. I've seen some people say it sounds like it could be in an anime, and I agree, but I'm not sure if that's a good thing here or not. I prefer Ezio's family as the more emotional, soulful track. When Jesper Kyd composed the original, it was meant to symbolize the loss of Ezio's family and the sacrifice required to be in the Brotherhood. And obviously this one gives off a very different vibe, as it feels a lot more like an action-heavy, high-energy kind of track. I'm very curious to see where it plays in the actual game. I could see it being like a chase theme or something. Maybe there's still going to be a more serious, dramatic remix of Ezio's family like we heard in the cinematic trailer.
We are the shadows
that serve the light.
This version, like the main theme for Shadows, does sound very modern as well. And I kind of prefer the game's soundtracks to be a little bit more authentic and atmospheric, to really immerse you in the setting. And while I like the sound of this on its own, I don't know how I'm going to like it in-game, as it doesn't exactly scream feudal Japan to me. And I can't see it playing during any kind of emotional story moment, as it typically does in these games. The more I listen to it though, the more it grows on me, as initially I was kind of just shocked at how different it was. Anyways, I feel this is a good ranking for it for now. It may rise or fall depending on how it's used in the game. Next, I'm going with Odyssey's version of Ezio's family, which they just called Assassin's Creed. I like this version, but I don't like that they decided to have it play on the inventory screen. It just feels like they're trying to play off people's nostalgia for it, instead of reserving it for impactful story moments where it would make more sense to hear it. Like I said though, I like this version. It gives you the feeling of ancient Greece and fits in with the tone of the rest of the soundtrack. I just feel like this is probably the most obvious example of them using Ezio's family to play on people's nostalgia, which kind of devalues the purpose of the theme. Next, I'm going with Valhalla's version, and what's cool about this one is that the man himself, Jesper Kyd, returned for Valhalla's OST and got to make a new rendition of the original version of Ezio's family he created for Assassin's Creed 2. He also collaborated with Norwegian musician Einar Selvik to help give the track the Viking feel, and they definitely succeeded. And I think this version in particular does a really good job of giving us something unique and different for Ezio's family, while still keeping the essence of it intact. I like that it's saved for big story moments as well, as it plays during the final cutscene of Valhalla's last chapter most notably, which of course gave me chills. Next is one of our newest versions of Ezio's family, and that's Mirage's version. I absolutely love this rendition, not only for how good it sounds, but how well it's tied into the story and suited to Basim specifically. The male vocalist sings in Arabic, "Where is my home?" and "Who am I?" The same questions Basim is desperately searching for the answers to throughout the game, as his entire story revolves around self-identity. I also love when they decided to have it play in the game. I'm gonna have to give a quick spoiler warning here, in case there are still some people who haven't finished Mirage, as Ezio's family plays near the end of the game, so you've been warned. But the theme fits perfectly when Basim arrives at Alamut, is speaking to the injured Noor, and heads out to not only save his brothers, but find the truth. This is when Basim has hit his breaking point, and so knowing that the song is singing out "Where's my home? Who am I?" hits really deep. And again, going back to the original meaning of Ezio's family representing loss and sacrifice, I think this theme suits Basim really well, and kind of connects him and Ezio's journeys in a very cool way. And that's when I think Ezio's family is at its best, when used as a way to convey storytelling and not just nostalgia bait. We're now in the top 3, and number 3 for me is going to be the Origins version. Origins soundtrack in general has a super unique sound that allows me to recognize tracks from it instantly, and incorporating and blending that sound with Ezio's family works extremely well. And I think Ezio's family fits Bayek's character even better than Basim's. Similar to Ezio, Bayek has lost his family and has sacrificed it all to create the Brotherhood. And having it play in the final scene of the main story gave me all the feels. More so than most other times I've heard Ezio's family in these games, because this is the start of it all. And it made me think about Ezio and how everything started with Bayek, it's all connected to him, and none of this would exist without him. Origin's soundtrack in general is a masterpiece, and it has one of my favorite renditions of Ezio's family. And the runner-up is going to have to be Rogue's version, which is actually the main theme for the game, and really the first Assassin's Creed game to start the trend of creating its own version of Ezio's family. But what I really love about Rogue's theme in particular is how it blends Ezio's family with motifs from Assassin's Creed 3 and even Black Flag, as all three of those games are connected. Rogue symbolizes that beautifully in its main theme. It starts with the classic Ezio's family, symbolizing Shay's start as an assassin, then it brings in elements from AC3's soundtrack, symbolizing not only its major connection to that game, but Shay's initial allegiance as a colonial assassin. And then it brings a little bit from Black Flag's soundtrack as well, representing the game's naval combat and traversal in Rogue, akin to that of Black Flag's. It's just a beautiful marination of so many different themes from the previous games that captures the journey of Shay Cormac very well. I usually always have to listen to it at least one time whenever I'm on Rogue's main menu. But coming in first place, and the clear winner, to no one's surprise, is the original Ezio's family from Assassin's Creed 2. You all saw this coming, come on. It's the original. There has been and will never be a superior version of Ezio's family. It was a track initially derived from Earth, the first song in Assassin's Creed 2, but Jesper Kyd wanted to make an orchestral version of Earth, and thus Ezio's family was born. And it was a theme he felt compelled to write after hearing about Ezio's story and journey. It almost didn't really make it into the game because there was no planned section to have it, but it was so good that Jesper and the devs mutually agreed that it should play for the game's opening title card, and the rest is history.
It is a good life we lead, brother.
At best, they never change.
And may it never change us.
That is my ranking of every official variation of Ezio's family in the Assassin's Creed series. Of course, like I said at the beginning, this is all very subjective, so let me know what your personal favorite version is in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like, consider subscribing to the channel if you're new, and other than that, thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day, Assassins.